Okay, I want to continue the series on commitment. I did the first one a few weeks ago, the first session, and then last week I did the beginning of the second session. And I was talking about habits that build effective people. You see, sometimes we look at people and think, gosh, look at them. Haven't they got their act together? Look at them, they've got this. Do you remember the Ready Break advert years ago? With the glow. You kind of just think, some people, look at them, look at the glow, look at them, they're so spiritual, they're just so, I'm trying to think if I can look around to see if there's any example. No. So I just and they just look as if, wow, look, they're just so spiritual. And we kind of think that it just happens when it doesn't. You see, you need to understand something. There's something about people who we look up to, who seem to achieve something, and we forget that for them to have achieved all the level, not that it's like a competition, please don't go down that road. But why are they at this level? It's because, folks, they have implemented certain habits. And so sometimes we look at them and say, I can never be like that. I can't be like that person, which is total garbage. It's just that you have to implement certain things. I remember hearing this statement, I think I shared it last week, of someone who said, you know what, we look at people who have got a six-pack. You know, to get to this takes hard work. But you know what? We do. We look at people who are super fit and we think, gosh, we understand it's hard work. But do you know something? To be unfit is also hard work. It's also hard work. Because the unfitter you are, guess what? The harder work it is to get up the stairs. You see, either way, you're working at something. It's the habits that you choose. And if you remember, last week we spoke about, I don't want to go over all of this again, you can listen to last week's message, but I talked to you, the one thing, if you're looking at habits to implement into your life that will make you effective, is to spend time with Jesus. Every day. Spend time with Christ. Now listen, let me just say this again. It doesn't mean that you have to spend hours. Yes, it can mean that. Sometimes we feel as if we have to spend at least 1 hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours. Folks, I don't see that anywhere in the Bible. Folks, what's important is that you just spend time with God. And do you know something? The more time you spend with Him, when you start to spend time with Him, the more you will spend time with Him. So don't try to give yourself some unrealistic target, because, folks, it ain't going to work. Folks, just start. That's all I'm asking. Just start. But what's the second thing? Now this one goes down brilliantly. Learn to give. Learn to give. In fact, folks, I believe personally in giving of your tithes and your offerings. Many of you have heard me say this before, and folks, we don't like to, oftentimes when you speak about money, often people will start to think, you don't hear the amens anymore. When you talk about finances, the smiles on people's faces seem to, and then they get the Bibles out to try and make, let's see if this is scriptural. We don't do it about anything else, but when it comes to money, I'm not sure if that's scriptural. I think that's Old Testament. Old Testament. Do you know what? Tithing is a spiritual discipline. It's a habit of giving back to God the first 10% of all that you make. And too often, folks, listen, Jesus didn't talk, actually he did talk about tithes once. And he didn't come, it wasn't to say no. And folks, my old pastor used to say this, folks, you either go Old Testament and give a tenth, or you go New Testament, you give everything. Because when you read in the New Testament, folks, and people gave, they gave until it hurt. They gave till it hurt. A tithe doesn't sound too bad now, does it? A tithe doesn't sound too bad. Not only does God tell me to do it, he also gives me the reason to do it. This is what it says in Matthew 6:21. Don't hoard down here when it gets, come on Dave, read. Here, where it gets eaten by moths and corroded by rust, or worse, stolen by burglars. Stockpile treasure in heaven while it's safe from moth and rust and burglars. It's obvious, isn't it? The place where your treasure is the place you will most want to be and end up being. You see, folks, listen, when you hoard things, do you know something? It shows where you put your trust. It shows where you put your trust. And what he's saying is, folks, don't hoard for yourself and work. Folks, Becky's already touched upon this morning when leading. Folks, if you're looking for the government, whoa, do you know what? You need double prayer. Not because it's Conservatives, because Labour haven't got the answer. The Lib Dems haven't got the answer. I believe a lot of all the things that we're going through is a spiritual thing. And hence why Becky says, church arise. Folks, we have to demonstrate to people. Why would they want to follow you if what you and I demonstrate is not better than what they've got? Who's ever seen an advert that says, use this washing powder? It doesn't work. And yet, too often, that's what we do. We don't demonstrate anything that's better than what they've got. And yet we can come to church and raise our hands. Oh, hallelujah, our God's wonderful. Do you know what? When you give to God, it will draw you closer to him. Because where your money is, usually that's where your heart is. Folks, I truly believe we don't use checkbooks now, do we, really? Checkbooks are almost defunct. But if I was to go into your online banking, if I could go onto your online banking, I'll be able to tell you where your treasure is. Now, some of you are probably thinking, well, yeah, most of my money goes to the mortgage people. I understand that. There are bills that you have to pay. I understand that. But the spare cash, and I know we're living in a cost of living crisis, but what you choose to spend your money on that you're free to, it will show to me where your heart is. I wonder, because some of you have gone really quiet now, and I'm scared. I wonder what it would reveal. Do you know what amazes me? We have no problems paying our subs to Sky, Amazon, the gym, our car payment. We have no problems paying that. And yet somehow or another we have a problem paying God. Do you know what's scared of the power company? Do you know something? I know this sounds really almost, but I think we need to, I've got to be really careful here, because sometimes people will often take what you say to the nth degree, and they don't seem to hold balance. But let's put it this way. We're so scared about the company that can maybe cut off your gas or your electricity, and yet we forget that God Almighty can end you like that. Folks, we're only here because of the goodness of God. He is God after all. I genuinely believe that Christians don't have a problem believing that tithing is right. The problem is that they don't trust God enough for him to provide for them. That's the problem. In fact, really, the real crux of the matter is we have no problems believing that tithing is correct. We just have a problem believing that God can provide. I had a conversation, I was talking to Barbara about it the other day in the car, and I had a conversation with someone who remained nameless, and he did not say this in any showing off way at all, in any way, shape or form. Because of what he's doing is a new venture for him, it's a real step of faith. And he said to me, you know, I can trust God for the 10,000 or 20,000. He didn't say it to show off, because actually that's not him. And it hit me thinking, wow, that one little sentence, I can trust God for 10,000 or 20,000. I thought, wow, can I? Can I? Now, where this person is concerned, it really is important, because actually if he doesn't get the money, he can't live. So it's not as if he can fall back onto something, because he gave up the ministry because he felt God said to leave the ministry to do something else and to step into something else, and it was a faith thing. It's a faith thing. And I thought, Dave, can I trust God? In fact, I'm going through something at the moment, and I'm thinking, God, can I trust you for this? And I have to be honest, I'm starting to sweat a little bit, thinking, oh. You know what? The purpose of tithing is to teach you and I to always put God first in our life. It's hard to put God first if he's last in your budget. It's hard to put God first if he is last in your budget. I believe also that giving is an antidote to the toxins of materialism, greed, get all you can, hoard, steal mentality. Folks, that's the society in which we live. Do you know something, folks? It's not even money. It's just general. It helps to break. It helps to break that hold of trying to get more. As if more that you have, the more valuable or more significant you are as a person. We have this mentality, folks. We have to break it. And by giving, it's an antidote to all of that. Do you know what people say? You know what? I want to buy this and have this. And look. And actually, folks, they say, I want to be individual. But actually, they're all the same. That's what's so stupid. They buy because they want to get this hat or these trainers. I mean, I talked to Barbara about it one time before. Have you ever seen young people with new trainers? It may cost £200, but they walk funny. Not because the trainer is, no, listen, it's not because the trainer is uncomfortable, it's because they don't want to put the crease in the train. And so they kind of walk like this, like the mummy. And they want to be individual. But the fact is, hundreds of other people are wearing the exact same thing. I'm an individual, look. Folks, it shows where you put your trust. It breaks that grip, folks, of giving. Folks, for God so loved the world that he hoarded. That wasn't what it says. For God so loved the world that he gave. And what did he give? An angel? That would have been impressive. He gave the best he had. He simply gave the best he had. Do you know what? Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade, it was really funny. The female archaeologist lost her life because she wanted the cup of youth. Do you remember that film? There it was. And you're thinking, have you ever seen those Batman and Robin little cartoon joke things on Facebook and things? When Robin says something and Batman just slaps him. Have you ever seen it? You haven't got a clue what I'm on about, do you? How you've seen it? Well, you want to do a Batman moment at that time. You think, oh, for goodness sake, woman, just get out of it. Get a grip. But she died. All because she wanted. Folks, listen to me. It is so funny to see various people reach out for certain things. Says, I must have that. I must. It'll make the difference. It'll change my life. And as they pursue it, realize that actually they're on a downward spiral and it will lead to their own destruction. I find it amazing. I already told you this, but this is what it says. John 3:16. This is how much God loved the world. He gave his son, his one and only son. And this is why. So that no one need be destroyed. By believing in him, anyone can have a whole and lasting life. God didn't go to all the trouble of sending his son merely to point an accusing finger, telling the world how bad it was. He came to help, to put the world right again. Anyone who trusts in him is acquitted. Anyone who refuses to trust in him has long since been under the death sentence without even knowing it. And why? Because of that person's failure to believe in the one-of-a-kind Son of God when introduced to him. If we profess to be Christ followers, then his nature should be in us. People often say this. I'm not sure this is a good thing. I try and take it the positive way. When I introduce my kids to them, to other people, they'll often say, oh, I can see, yeah, it's not just a resemblance. And it's natural, isn't it? Because they're my kids. Actually, that's why it scares me a little bit that actually maybe Srini is really like Adriel, or Adriel's like Srini. Some of you might have to think he might have got it from him. Why? Because it's his son. There's a nature. There's something that's there. Folks, if we profess to be Christ followers, there should be something of the nature of God in us, in which we will declare quite easily, or we will show and demonstrate that we have light fingers on everything, because you know it's not ours, it's his anyway. And we gladly give. We gladly give. So how do you do it? Well, get a routine. This is what it says in 1 Corinthians 16, verse 2. On every Lord's Day, each of you should put aside something from which you have earned during the week and use it for this offering. So basically, what's the routine when you get paid? Some people have a direct debit. In fact, can I just say this? Because I know that some of you will start to think, and people often think this. People will often think this. Oh, these churches are only after your money. Folks, listen to me. Can I just say this? Even though I have a challenge at certain things financially that I have to... Folks, if the day that I think that my survival depends on you, I'm in trouble. I don't mean that funny or horribly. I'm being serious, folks. I'm telling you, I do not believe that my dependency... I know I work here, but actually I see that I work for God. It's his responsibility to look after me and my family. And the day that I think it's you, you need to be scared. Do you know why? Because then up here, I will use this platform as a way of manipulating you to give so as I can benefit. That's not the case. And do you know something, folks? One of the things that we gladly do every year when we do an AGM, do you know something? We show what the books are like and we show what the support is given. Folks, don't you dare start thinking, oh, he's saying that because he can just get all the money himself. No. No. There's accountability. There's all sorts of things that's in place, and leadership trustees, so as to ensure there is no fraudulent activity and everything is going well. Because folks, we see it as a charity, and more importantly than that, folks, we believe that we represent God, and we want to be in a good way. So for some of you, you might think, oh, the AGM is boring, and maybe it is, but actually for me, it's exciting, because actually, I believe we have to show what's going on, and that creates confidence in others to give. So when you get paid, some people do it by direct debit. And if you are a tax earner, I would encourage you to give through stewardship service. Because every £100 you give, we get an extra £25. Actually, folks, we are called to be good stewards of the resources that God gives to us. Do you remember the three people who were given the talents? One buried it. What did he say? You could have put it in the bank and got interest in it. Folks, the very least that we can do if you're a taxpayer is give through stewardship, which means that we get the tax rebate. It doesn't affect your tax. You don't pay any more tax. All of it's still the same, but it's a way that government can give back to charities to help charities function better and equip them better. So therefore, you're called to be a good steward. Give through stewardship. Give through stewardship. Make your money go further. You know, unfortunately, many people believe that money makes people feel secure, powerful, successful, or important. And they feel that their happiness is dependent upon how much money they have. Listen, there's nothing wrong with money. Nothing. Listen, folks, if you're a multimillionaire, that's great. You're not a sinner. It's the love of money that's the problem. Because all it does, it produces envy, greed, discontent, selfishness, murder. Do you know, I'm self-employed, and I have an accountant, and to make sure that everything's all in order, because, I don't want to be, get in trouble. Because ignorance is no longer a defense. And if it was ignorance, I would get away with a lot of things. But this guy's been an accountant now for about 40 years, and he says, it's so funny when I deal with the accounts of people who are really wealthy. He says, they are so miserable. That's one of the things they are so miserable is untrue. I thought, what an observation that is. Some have to quit allowing their money to control them, but trust in God. The Bible says this in Philippians 4:19, I will supply all your needs. Malachi 3 verse 11, I will rebuke the devourer. I will open the windows of heaven and I will bless you. Romans 8:32, since he did not spare even his son for us, but gave him up for us all, won't he surely give us everything else? Do you know what? We need to teach our kids to tithe. But folks, listen, we need to master this ourselves. It's a habit that we need to do. Do you know, this is so fun. I've used this before. And it's not me originally that came up with it, but it's so true. Brought a smile to my face. Even my kids who are 27, 24, 21. They're my kids. And even my grandkids. It's quite amusing to take them to McDonald's. It is. You take them to McDonald's. Okay, you've bought it, or I bought it. In this case, I bought it. So I place the order, all of the food comes out, okay, and then it comes to the table. I may not have anything in front of me, okay, because I've not bought it. It's for them. But when I grab one of their fries, all hell breaks loose. Get lost! These are mine. I bought these for you because I love you. It is so funny. You try and get in between. Folks, it's amazing what a French fry, the division, the anger, the war that can take place as a result. In fact, folks, sometimes when the bag comes out, some of the chips are the chips are loose inside. They're not actually in the cardboard package. Have you ever noticed that? And so when you start to take it out, and then, that's mine. Just over French fries, and yet you bought it. And that's exactly what we do with God. He's the one who supplied you, and yet giving back, oh no. I love you, but no. You touch my French fry. Remember David's word, have been young and now I am old. Does that sound familiar? Wojtek? Have been young, and now I am old. In all my years, I've never seen the Lord forsake a man who loves him, nor have I seen the children of the godly go hungry. Psalm 37. Will you give to God? Because I want to tell you, you can't outgive him. There's so much more, but I need to finish with this. The third point. Get with other believers regularly. I touched upon this 2 weeks ago at the beginning of this. Do you know one of the bad or the sad things for me is how we have allowed society's sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Society's things that they consider important, we brought into the church. Society has this thing of individual. It's about whatever I want. It's about me. It's about how I feel. I want to tell you that's totally anti-Bible. Because where God is concerned, it's not about me, it's about us. God is not the God of a hand. That sounds a bit strange, doesn't it? But God is the head of a body. He is the head of a body. Not a finger. Folks, if it was a finger, we'll be in trouble because she's broke hers. Listen, can I encourage you? We have to be a part of a body. It's community. Do you know what? Don't go off on a tangent. Let me just stick to my notes. Hebrews 10:25. Let us not neglect our church meetings as some people do, but encourage and warn each other, especially now that the day of his coming back again is drawing near. You see, there is something about the strength of body, community, being together. There are some who are so, again, you want that Batman moment where you just want to, in love, of course. They're so spiritual. Oh, I don't need the body of Christ. It's me and God. Oh, it's so lovely. It's just God and me. Yeah. Folks, it's not, even Jesus, when he was on this earth, didn't behave like that. God wanted to be with others. If Jesus, the Son of God, wanted to be with others, what makes you think that you can do it differently? Even the Apostle Paul wanted to be with others. And I don't think he was necessarily an easy person to get on with. I think he was pretty intense. I need to be careful just in case I meet him in heaven. So I'm intense, am I? No, I don't mean that. I love the illustration of the redwood trees. You must have heard this. The redwood trees are the biggest trees that you can ever see. They are huge. They go up to such heights, it's unbelievable. And they're also really big. But they really confused the scientists for numerous years. Do you know why they confused them? Because even though they're the biggest and the fattest and the tallest, their root system is incredibly shallow. And what they can't understand, or couldn't understand then, is how they, despite whatever the weather, the storms that they encountered, they still stood when their root system is so shallow. And then it twigged. They discovered something. You never ever see a redwood tree on its own. Redwood trees are together. And what happens is the root system connects with each other. And that's why miles away down over there, where there's no water, the redwood tree can still flourish. Do you know why? Because that end, where there is water, they will pass all the nutrients all along the root system to get over to here. And their strength, because they're intertwined, comes. That's why they can face the storms and the winds and the rains. Why? Because they're so connected. I love it. And that is God's design for you. That is why, folks, again, in the Old Testament, the Bible says, when they're kind of going through the desert, stick with each other. Why? Because those who straddle at the end, and when there's a big gap, guess what? They were picked up by the enemies. There is strength when you are together. Do you know something, folks? I've got to be really careful here. Without even giving... Folks, I know of situations in which people have struggled because they've chosen to take themselves out. Now listen, they took themselves out of community. And they wonder why it's kind of hard work. Maybe they've gone through a real difficult time in their life. And so instead of being even more in community, they've taken themselves out. Folks, that's why gangs are so effective. Because they're together. They've learnt the principle that many people in church haven't. Folks, can I just say this? Oh, yesterday was really good. Not because of the food. The food was good. But because, folks, it was just an excuse to be together. It's just an excuse to be together. And there's something that happens, folks, when you are together. Every day in the temple and in their home Bible classes, they continue to teach and preach that Jesus is the Messiah. So they met in homes. They didn't just meet for services, they met socially too. It was any excuse. You know what? When they met, they strengthened and encouraged each other. You know what? What's the result then? What's the payoff if I do it? Ecclesiastes 4:9. Two can accomplish more than twice as much as one, for the results can be much better. You see, if you want to be an effective Christian, you want an effective Christian life, you need to get with others. How about this? Did you know that your purpose and destiny is a solution to somebody else's problem? Did you know that your purpose and destiny is a solution to somebody else's problem? This wasn't in a church context. I was meeting with someone who was going to help us as a centre. And there was another group in who was higher in the centre. And the leader of that group came out, and I was just speaking to him. And the guy who's helping me with the centre was also a part of that conversation. Because I introduced the two of them together, one had a problem that the other one could solve. Now, I didn't do that because I knew that. I just said, oh, hi, this is so-and-so. He works for so-and-so, and this is so-and-so. He works for this particular organisation. He says, oh, hi, nice to meet you. He says, what do you do? Oh, well, I do this. He says, no. Yeah, I do this. And he said, wow, we're looking for someone who can do exactly what you're doing. Can you? And just through a chance conversation, a need was met. Folks, we need to understand that's why you are important, that you come. Now listen, I'm not interested in just numbers for numbers' sake. Folks, if we want a large crowd, there are things that we can do to get a large crowd, then that's not what we're on about. But I do believe it's important. That's one of the reasons why, folks, we will do some things on Zoom because we want as many people to be, to be connected. And we know there are times that they can't come physically or wherever, and so therefore we want to meet that need. But one of the things we're trying to do since COVID is to try and get more in-person things. Why? Because there's something about that. There's no substitute for that. If you want to be effective, you need to get together. When the foundation is made, it's not a building. Did you know that? It hit me, that. I was driving down the Stone Road. Next to the Ford garage, there was all this building work going on, and there was nothing there. For weeks and weeks, there was nothing there. And now, folks, there's a building. There's a building there. Folks, listen, Christ is the foundation. That foundation will never shake. That's why it was that song that we sing. He's put my feet on solid ground. But it's not the building. Because actually he wants you and I to be that building, and he wants us to build upon that foundation. And it's when we get connected. But all too often we're too immature. Can you imagine if you're the builder? Okay, and here you are. You have your cement, you mixed it all up, and you got all these bricks. And you put one brick down. Take off the excess cement. Then you get another brick. And the brick is, no! What? I don't want to be next to him. Can you imagine a brick saying that? I don't know. And that's us. No, God, no. it's JP. He finds David's jokes funny. No! Every minister should have a JP. I keep saying it. Folks, we laugh at it, that's stupid, isn't it? But yet, that's us. God knows what he's doing. And do you know what? My best man for my wedding, and I was his best man. Do you know what? We worked together. We went into the ministry together. I was really excited about doing this thing, this faith venture. I was excited until I heard that he was going to be a part of it too. I thought, oh no, we ain't gonna, oh no, no. But after all those years, guess what? I was his best man. He was my best man. Folks, it was a close relationship. Folks, it would never have happened if it was down to me. Duh. God knows what he's doing. Can I ask you to learn and relate with people who might not necessarily believe everything that you do? Because I find it really sad that a lot of stuff that comes through on my emails are people who slamming other Christians because they did something. It drives me mad. I feel like saying, please, whoa, let's just stop. Let's just say that what that person's done is wrong. Okay, that's fine. We'll stop there. I would now like to examine your life. You who have done no wrong. You who have done no wrong. Who sits at the right hand of God. Folks, all too often we're critical of somebody else because they don't believe what we believe. Folks, for me, there's only one foundational truth. Is to get to heaven, you need to know Jesus. There are some people who don't believe in the baptism of the Spirit. That's fine. I can still relate with them. Because, folks, if it's going to be that we have to agree with each other, our world would be really boring. Can you imagine, folks, this actually does put a smile on my face, how much happier and jollier our world would be if everyone was like me. The jokes we could tell. Oh, it'll be fun and laughter all day. Don't look like that, Jackie. But we've got people who are different. Why? Because we all have different abilities and giftings. But all too often, folks, I've been married for 30 years to the same woman with 3 kids and everything else. And we've not always agreed, but we're together. Folks, why is it that we can do it with our wives, or actually, can I just say this? More people are not doing this with their wives or our husbands. Oh, no, I don't agree. And then it's an excuse for, folks, grow up. Please, grow up. Stop being vicious. Why do I have to be right all the time? I can have my views on something and still have fellowship with other believers. I'm going to finish with this. I need to finish. I've got loads of stuff, and I'll finish this in a couple of weeks' time, this series. Do you remember the Rugby World Cup final? This was a few years ago, and it was against New Zealand, the All Blacks, and South Africa. And before the final, we were in the All Blacks half. I think it was the semi-final. And Jonah Lumu, I think is how you pronounce it, was a single demolition machine. Now, he came up against, some of our English players who were experienced, who were big, and he just threw them off as if they didn't exist. It was one of those things, it was really funny. It was embarrassing for England, but it was also, if you kind of divorced yourself from the fact that you may be an England supporter at that time, you found it incredibly funny. Because it felt like it was a joke. They kind of bounced off him. And as a result, New Zealand didn't really have to, and actually they say that was probably the greatest New Zealand team ever. absolutely demolished England. Got to the final against South Africa, and everyone said New Zealand's going to do it. South Africa, no chance. But they learnt something that the other teams did not learn previously as they faced New Zealand. Whenever they tackled Alumo, only one person did it. So what the South Africans said is, every time he gets the ball, whoever's closest to him, I want the minimum of 2 to 3 players to get on him and get him down. So that's what they did. Because normally you see players when they're playing rugby, it's the Six Nations now, isn't it? You see them, and it's poof, and they're able to get the person down. They don't need 2 or 3 other people. But against him, they had to get 2 or 3. And as a result of changing their tactics, guess who won? South Africa, against all odds. I think Aluma was actually subbed. I think he was actually taken off in the second half. A, because I think he had been battered, and B, he was so tired. And they realised that he was no longer a strength. And folks, the reason why I'm asking and telling you this illustration is simply this. Do you know something? There are things that you and I cannot handle and tackle on our own. But the wonderful thing about community is that when there's 2, or there's 3, it's a different thing. We need to be in community. That's my encouragement to you today. There's something about being together. That means the world. I get excited, not because I have to preach. Some of you might think I've got some ego that I've got to preach and talk. No, actually. Folks, do you know what? You need to be really worried. If ever a time I needed false teeth, and my wife has false teeth, you need to pray that I choose the right false teeth to put in, because otherwise I'll be talking for hours. But true. Listen, it's not because I want to hear my voice. A lot of my excitement is because I'm meeting with you. Because I feel as if maybe I can encourage you and that you can encourage me. It's a mutual thing. There's something wonderful about being in community. That's what the habits that effective people put into practice. Time's gone, I'm going to pray. God, really help us to be effective people. These little habits aren't huge. These little habits are very simple. But I pray that you'll help us to implement them so therefore we can be effective and that we can bring glory to your incredible name. Whatever we need to do to bring about change, will you help us to do so? I pray that we as a group will be examples of the things that we've just shared. And that you'll be pleased with. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Can I just say this before we finish? No, time's gone. For those who are online watching, one, if you've got any questions, contact us at info@hccstafford.org or connect through Facebook. That'll be really good. But let me just give you one final example. There are times that you say, well, I want to spend time with Jesus, or I want to give, or I want to be in community. And sometimes we fail. I think I was talking to someone this morning about food poisoning. I think it was. Yeah. Do you know something? Even though that was a really bad case actually for them, that they were in bed for 3 days, really seriously ill. The thing is, they still eat. They had a bad experience, but they still eat. What I'm trying to say is, you and I will, time to time, fail in some of these areas. But what happens is we write ourselves off too often and say, oh, that's it. My encouragement to you is to get back up again and keep going. Because you will fail from time to time, we all do. But you're not written off. And that failure does not need to label you for the rest of your life. So may God bless you. Have a good week. We'll see you next week.